What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing today? It's a little messy around here after filming the Spiritual Scammers video. I haven't gotten all of that cleaned up yet, but I wanted to pop on really quick and talk about something that I was just talking about with someone else on a Facebook group that I'm in, because I watch this culture of fear that's just growing when it comes to people being able to voice their opinions about things. And this comes from this sort of misconception we have about the idea that the far left voice is the only voice left in the room that is reasonable to have. We do still understand that there are some other voices in the room, but they've been labeled as bigoted or whatever. And so what I started to realize in watching people like this and watching myself be afraid to interact on the internet with people and in real life is that people aren't as close-minded, especially in person, as the culture has now made them out to be. We have this misconception because the loudest voice right now is the far left voice. Excuse me, guys. Let's get the rest of the other, shall we? And so that it really doesn't help, because even those of us who are in the middle ground are afraid to say, hey, I don't agree with that. And we used to be able to understand that our voice doesn't belong everywhere. This culture of activism that's come out of the left, that the pendulum has swung so far out, which it happens, has made everyone think that they need to give their opinion. Our opinions don't belong everywhere. And on top of that, and I really valued this when I was working at the Dickens Fair over the holiday season, and getting back into that group of friends of mine, getting to talk to people who have different views than mine, while still being able to find the middle ground that we all agree on, or that we both agree on, and being able to have a very loving and cherished friendship, because though we don't agree on everything, we know there is common ground between us, because we're willing to find it. We're willing to explore with each other and find it, even if we don't agree on everything. And we sort of lost this. This has gotten lost in the sauce. Everybody's trying to be loving and caring. And in the process of trying to be loving and caring, the pendulum in the polarity universe that we live in has swung so far out into hypocrisy and contradicting beliefs and just sheer rudeness, because everybody is feeling so insecure that we're having this, Dunning-Kruger effect thing that I talk about all the time happening, where the most confident people are the people we're hearing, but they're also the people who are the least educated on what they're actually talking about. They're the least experienced when it comes to what they're talking about, especially when it comes to the left. And as we know from the Dunning-Kruger effect, actually, the more experienced and the more knowledgeable you get, for a while you get less, the less confident you get for a while before it swings back up. But as you become more knowledgeable, and this actually really correlates with what I talk about when it comes to your level of knowledge and your level of being, and whether or not they're the same thing. The people who are the most confident actually have the lowest level of being, as where the people who have the most experience, who are the most confident, have the highest level of being, because they're actually more humble, more willing to admit that they make mistakes, that they don't know everything, And we used to be able to do this. We used to be able to do this as a world culture. And we've sort of lost this. We used to understand that there is a middle ground that we can all meet on. And now everybody's, you know what? And here's the thing. Everybody thinks everybody's on respective sides. This is really the commentary that I want to make on this. And I made a graphic for it for Instagram a few days ago. I'll show it here. So what happened was that we ended up with the left and the right bickering each other because those people forgot that there was a middle ground that we could meet on. And actually, I don't even think they forgot. I honestly think, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that cartoon about how the modern news media got to the way it was from the way the news used to be. But like any addiction, like any dopamine hit, we need that greater and greater extreme to keep our attention, to get that greater high when it comes to things like this. So we end up with the left and the right being like, no, I want more attention. No, I want more attention. So I've got to do something more extreme. So I've got to do more extreme things, you know, blah, 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 blah. And then all of the rest of us are kind of sitting in the background being told what to think and are like, well, what do I do? What do I do? You know, do I just go to the right? Do I just go to the left? You know, most people, because they think it's the more caring thing to do because that's what they've been told. Because the left stole liberalism when liberalism used to be what was in the middle between the left and the right for the most part, you know, the way we think about it in like the most stereotypical sense. There's a whole thing when it comes to culture. But, you know, there are so many people who were like old school liberals that are falling into the right side because they still had, as liberals, things resembling conservative values. Because we used to, as liberals, be able to meet in the middle between the left and the right. And so 2-3 years ago, we all found ourselves stuck in the middle going, what do I do? And the answer is not to pick sides. That's not the answer. We need to get back to that middle ground, and we need to start understanding that the left is not the only voice in the room, nor should it be. Differing opinions are important to create healthy systems. Period. End of story. Everything has its function. There's something, I want to say it was Jordan Peterson. Maybe it was Ben Shapiro. I don't remember now. And guys, I used to find Ben Shapiro obnoxious, like super obnoxious. But because I've adopted this take what you need and leave the rest mentality, I have been able to listen to the things that he says, find the middle ground, leave the rest. So I can't remember. I think it was Jordan Peterson who said, it might have been, I don't remember. One of those PragerU Daily Wire things. Whoever it was said that, you know, the utility of the left is, give me a second, I'm trying to remember this. I don't have any of this prepared whatsoever. Just free flow in here. The utility of the left was something about valuing the individual. And the utility of the right was something about valuing the collective. And how they both serve their purposes very well, especially when we can come together and use them together. But when you have them extremely, like we do now, opposing each other, then it becomes this clash of the titans that we're seeing now that isn't good for any of us. So, you know what? hold on one second. I want to go get my comment for me to look at so I can share the rest of the things that I want to share. Make sure that I'm touching on all the things I want to touch about that I just talked about with this other guy. Give me 2 seconds. I love how I said give me 2 seconds as if it was going to be a wait time for you guys for me to go in the other room and come back. I'm totally keeping that in there. I was considering editing out, and then I was like, no, I really want to. Okay, so I'm just going to read this to you guys. This was a comment I wrote to somebody who was struggling with their concern about having a bunch of what seems to them like very left leaning people in their college class, and what he should do about whether or not to he's concerned about how to interact. You know, he's worried about how he's going to be received, as far as I can tell. He seems to be worried about, you know, getting bullied by the left, which, you know, even the left is concerned about getting bullied by the left. It's what they do sometimes. So this is what I said that inspired me to make this video. One of the biggest mistakes we can make is the assumption that someone is going to be closed-minded just because they are passionate about what they are passionate about. There are so many of us, you know, that are really passionate about what we're passionate about, but that doesn't mean that we're not open to what other people are passionate about. And we make this mistake sometimes. I go on to explain next that, you know, I have a coworker in this project that I do that I thought we were going to clash because she seemed, in the getting to knowing of each other, more left, and I come off as more right often to people. So I was worried that we were going to have some tension in working together at a minimum. Even if we didn't really have any conversations, I was afraid that in sort of getting to know each other the little bit that we would, that there would be a tension. So I understand where this guy is coming from. I went on to say, we get that from the left, we get that from the left all the time. The assumption that just because you're passionate about what you're passionate about, you're going to be closed-minded to everything else. And we do. There are a lot of people on the left who speak out against people on the right, I've been called a bigot plenty of times by people for all sorts of things that were ridiculous. Like, my favorite example is when there was an election going on, and the guy who was running in that election for that state, his wife had just come out and said that he wasn't the person at home that he pretends to be in the office, and that he was abusing her. And there were a bunch of people, because there was this big push at the time for, you know, just go against the right with anything left that comes up, especially if it's minority looking. So this was a black guy. And so I said, hey guys, should we not be concerned about like what his wife is saying? Like, do we really want somebody like that, if it's true, to be running the government on any level? And I had someone come back and be like, you just don't like him because he's black. Because it was like during the time where that was like really popular to have as an opinion that like any white person was racist for any reason if they didn't just totally lick ass and agree. And so, you know, yeah, I've been accused of being racist plenty of times when I stop and then respond like, what part of what I said was racist? I never brought up his race. I don't care about what race he is. I care about the quality of human being he is. You understand what I mean. So I then go on to explain that I am guilty of it too, sometimes making these assumptions because of the coworker that I had. We get along famously, and don't have any issues whatsoever. There's no tension between us. But I, because of the period of time in which we met, was worried about it because it was a very heated time, a very passionate time. So I went on to say, my advice: don't be afraid to be you, but feel it out before you get specific in conversation with anyone. We all have common ground we can meet on, and we don't have to discuss everything we think all the time, everywhere. My rule for myself is that I will keep my comments to myself unless I feel like it is really important in the moment to speak out about something. I think that left activism ideals have permeated the culture so much that we think we have to speak our minds all the time. But speaking the truth is different than speaking our minds, and even the truth has its place and places it doesn't need to be spoken, or at least finding ways to meet in the middle. So just be mindful. Feel it out with each person. Don't be afraid to speak up, because people do need to understand that the left isn't the only voice in the room. We've lost that perspective lately too. Hope that helps. You know, we, in finding ourselves in these extreme places, whenever you create extremes like this energetically, let alone practically, we are creating the polarity energy at the opposite end, which is why the most harmonious place to be is as middle as possible. And another great example is that my fairy mother is that my fairy sister, my witchy sister, fairy godmother, she used to be my guardian at the Renaissance Fair. Now she is my boss at the Renaissance Fair, and she was my very first coven elder. And we had a conversation back in like December about how, me growing up with her the way I did, as much as I did, she doesn't stop to think often that we might disagree with each other, because we agree with each other on so much that it doesn't occur to her that we could have differing opinions on something unless I speak out about it. And I know it is safe for me to screw safe. I mean, it is nice to feel safe, but I know that I will be well received in my speaking up about it, even if we don't end up agreeing. I love having conversations with her because we challenge each other. And here's the thing, and this is what I've sort of come to realize: we all agree on way more than we think we do if we get to the roots of what we think the problems are. And this is really what blows my mind, is that there are people arguing about things, acting like they have these radically different opinions, when most of us agree on what the problem is. It's just what we think the solution to the problem is becoming more radically different. And so we have this culture where there are a bunch of people fighting that don't need to be fighting and could be having a great conversation. Being that they agree on what the problem is, they could use that as the common ground for a lot of things, at least. And then, find a middle ground for the solution. Like, the middle ground that we start with is that we agree on what the problem is. And that's sort of, again, gotten lost in the sauce, as it were. And so, yeah, I feel like this is important to talk about, that we need to not be afraid to especially speak up when we need to. Okay. Here's the thing. Like I said, there is a time and a place for when we should speak up. But there are times when we shouldn't be afraid to speak up and speak out, even if we think we're speaking against the dominant narrative. Because it's not the it's the dominant narrative, it's not the dominant point of view. And we all are trying to do the most loving and caring thing possible. We just don't agree on what that is. We agree on what the problems are for the most part. We agree that we all want to be nice to each other, but nobody's being nice to each other because they're creating this polarity energy. When you try to be that loving and caring without caring for yourself, then what happens is this cognitive dissonance, contradiction, and hypocrisy starts forming, where because we're as I like to say, being loving is not always being nice. If we're trying to be nice and friendly and joyous all the time and not, I'm not saying be rude, but there's a middle ground where we don't have to agree with everything all the time so that we're not fighting all the time, because we live in a polarity universe. That's how the energy of the universe works, energetically and practically. That's how our world works. That's the way people work. So if you're trying to just be totally optimistic all the time, just be nice all the time, you're gonna wind up with this toxicity, like that winds up being worse for you than had you just taken down the niceness for a minute, got real, and had the moment. There are times where the reason why my relationship is stronger is because there are times where he and I will bicker it out. It was one of the things that I noticed my mom and I used to do that a lot of her boyfriends didn't understand and would get mad at me for, where my mom and I would be yelling at each other because we'd be frustrated, but what we were yelling at each other was a constructive conversation. Now, I'm not saying that we want to yell at each other, but you're not going to be able to be friendly and nice all the time if you're being... I shouldn't even say friendly. You're not going to be able to be nice all the time if you're really being loving. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is get down to that place of admitting that you're angry, that you're frustrated, that you're sad, experiencing those emotions to release them, because otherwise you're going to be containing them, and that's a lot of emotional energy and baggage to hold on to that you're not releasing. And the faster you can release it, the better you will feel. So just the other day, what was the conversation about? It was about my spiritual scammers video. That was how it came up. We were having a conversation about whether or not the spiritual scammers were that I was encountering were bots or not. And the point that I was trying to make was that even if it is bots that are reaching out through these spiritual scams, there's a person behind it somewhere, because their aim is to make money, and AI is not so sentient yet that it needs money. So if something is trying to get money out of you, even if if someone is trying to get money out of you, even if it's employing a bot to do so, there is a somebody on the other side. And he just kept arguing, but it could be a bot, but it could be a bot, but it could be a bot. And I was like, I'm not saying it couldn't be a bot. I'm just saying that there's, even if it is a bot creating these profiles and reaching out to people and doing so just by giving some simple instruction and then learning how to do so on its own, there is somebody down the line somewhere. And he was like, yeah, but it could be a bot. And I was like, I'm not arguing with you. Why are you arguing with me? Or at least, what's your point? And he's like, my point is that it could be a bot. And I was like, okay, like, I get that. I get that. Like, if that is your only point and you're not trying to make a point beyond that, I get that. And I don't disagree with you. And we had a little bit of aggression in our voices as we had talked this conversation out. But within the conversation, we talked about how we felt. We very, very consciously and mindfully, when we have moments like that, talk out how we feel about it, like just explicitly. Like, when you do this, I feel like you're arguing with me just for the sake of arguing because you don't want to be wrong when there's nothing to argue about. Things like that. And then he'll voice his side of it back. So the very moment that we get into any sort of conversation that becomes aggressive towards each other, it might stay aggressive, like I used to do with my mom, where we would yell at each other. We would yell and scream at each other, but the words we were saying were constructive. We don't do that anymore. We were both less mature individuals at the time. But it was good. It was cathartic. And so, my significant other and he and I both, do this with each other. And because we have that strong communication, even though sometimes we express aggression towards each other, in the end, it all falls off like it never happened, because we are being communicative and working it out. And we can do this with our own emotions. We can, rather than try to stuff down how we feel, there is a time and a place. There's a time and okay. This is how I'm going to wrap this up, because it ties into what I was saying before. There is a time and a place for everything. And so, there is this sort of left-wing activism culture that has pushed the pendulum so far out that it makes us feel like we need to be voicing our opinion all the time, like we need to be emotional and passionate and proactively being an activist when it comes to the things that we believe all the time. But there is a time and a place for that, and there's a time and a place for finding a middle ground, and there's just a time and a place for keeping your mouth shut. And the dance that allows you to be harmoniously balanced is figuring out for you and the people you're interacting with when it's time to voice your opinion, when it's time to try to find a middle ground, and when it's time to keep your mouth shut. So, yeah. I'm considering making this an OG conspiracy theory news video, although I didn't, it's going to be a reality riffs video for sure. Which I love Guru Jagat, and I love honoring her teachings and her legacy by continuing on. Her podcast was called Reality Riff. And so I am trying to honor my point in calling this reality riffs is partly because I really like that it describes these moments, because I am just getting on and talking. There's no planning. It's just a riff. And it's a riff about reality. And then there is the part of it that's me paying homage to her and honoring her and how amazing she was. Because she's not with us anymore on the physical plane in that embodiment anymore. So, thank you guys for joining me for this. It was fun working that out. If you haven't seen it, you should go check out my Spiritual Scammers video. I am not a comedian. I don't think I will be doing, I don't know. You know, I only do these when the inspiration strikes, because otherwise they just end up falling flat. Like if I don't, there are times where I will try to write down things that I really feel like are important to communicate to you guys that got me really inspired. But if I don't do it in the moment, or I can't find that inspiration again when I sit down to film it, at this point I just don't. Because I will either find the inspiration again, or it just wasn't meant to be something that got out there. And so, you know, like even if I really love the information, sometimes I'm more inspired than others to share it. So when it comes to this comedy thing, the reason why I did this Spiritual Scammers video was because recently I have been getting a lot of spiritual scammers, and the night before I did the video, I was just like at my, that's not a good way to say it. I wasn't at my wit's end. I was, because I don't get to my wit's end very often. It's very rare. I don't know how to describe how I was feeling about it. It was a weird feeling. I was part annoyed with it, you know, part trying to figure out what about it was annoying me, because I'm all about that practice of maintaining unshakable peace. So anything that creates upset takes away from my peace and is something that I'm working on. You know, maybe not working on, but, you know, conscious of and working on it as it comes in and out of my conscious awareness. So, you know, I might not journal about it, but I might think about it when it comes up. There's a balance to these things, guys. So yeah, when it comes to doing the whole comedy thing, if I find something else that I'm really inspired about that I think everybody else would find funny too, I might end up trying to do a few more of these. But, you know, I did that one in a day. At this point, don't do a lot of projects that I can't finish in a day. And, you know, my sense of humor doesn't always translate. What I find funny is not always what other people find funny. So, you know, I didn't know how the Spiritual Scammers video would be received. I didn't really care, because I just kind of did it for me and knew that there was a few people who would also appreciate it. So if even just one person other than me appreciated it, it was worth putting it out there. And so, yeah, we'll see. I want to say, because I'm not a comedian by any stretch of the imagination. I don't consider myself a comedian. I don't consider myself funny in that way, although I laugh with myself all the time. But my sense of humor just doesn't usually translate. So yeah, we'll see. Anyway, because I just realized that I wasn't subscribed to one of my favorite people, I am gonna remind you guys to, if you like my videos, make sure you're liking, subscribing, commenting if you want to comment, because YouTube has this thing where it makes it really easy to forget to do that. And doing those things, there's a reason why people ask for it in all their videos, because it's really helpful as a content creator if you are liking, subscribing, and commenting, because that helps us get seen more, that helps us get monetized, it helps us get more more of the things that content creators need in the practical sense to be a content creator. So I am going to, I find it obnoxious. I find it obnoxious sometimes when, and I'm working on that too, when I hear people in every single video go like, subscribe, and comment, but I'm starting to understand why. Because there are times where we're so caught up in what the person is talking about that we forget to do those little things, and they are really helpful. So don't just do it for me, do it for anybody that you appreciate their message or their videos or their content or whatever it might be. And lastly, before we go, I am going to open up what was going to be the Sanctuary of the Awakened Slack chat to the entire Balanced Blackwood tribe. And, or, well, I've technically already done that, but I want the whole tribe to take a vote. So I'll post a vote post here, but also vote in the comments. What is your favorite group chat app if you use one? Because I want to, hold on. There it is. Sorry. I'm a little congested today. So it's time to use some breathe. Put a little on my nose. So, maybe some water too. Bear with me, guys. This is important. I want you guys to all participate in this as a tribe. All right, so I want the Balanced Blackwood tribe to be a hub for everyone that has felt like an island in an ocean alone when they're not. I want the Balanced Blackwood tribe to be a hub for people, anybody. I'm trying to remember that if you try to be for everybody, you end up being for nobody. Because it's true. It's true. I do want it to be for everybody who is attracted to, who energetically vibrates at the same frequency. But putting that into words isn't always easy for me. But that is the first thing. All the people out there who are the crowd in the background, watching the left and right fight, just trying to find a middle ground. All the people who are the left that the left left behind, the liberals that the left left behind, I like better. You know, all the awake, not woke, which I'm not against, you know, woke people in general. I don't want their energy in my tribe because we're trying to like middle ground that shit, not fight each other for no reason. You know, and that's one of the things that I know a lot of really good-hearted people that want to be inclusive to everybody, but sometimes exclusivity is a good thing. And so if we want to help the world heal, we have to start by healing ourselves and collecting as a tribe. There is a favorite video of mine by Tony Nagy, which I am really excited because I might get an interview with her, and that would be awesome. Like we're in talks, so that would be really cool because I want to pick her brain when it comes to what she does. Which, for those of you who don't know who Tony Nagy is, she is someone that I have seen on Instagram for a long time, just started following, and I just love her creative process, partly because it makes me uncomfortable, some of the things that she does, and I like that stretching out of my comfort zone. But anyway, so because I want the tribe to, and I did not expect this video to go this long. I went from talking about politics to talking about relationships. But that's because they're interrelated. They're interconnected. Politics is a relationship at its core between people. But so I want all of us to collect somewhere where we can all talk together, share together. I really like Slack because you can create, within a group, you can create different rooms to talk about different subjects, so we're not all talking on top of each other. I can't remember if you can do that within Discord. So, or if you have to create different rooms. Like, that's what I really love about Slack, and really want to encourage everybody to head over to my Patreon and join with the link there, the Slack chat that we have for the Sanctuary of the Awakened that I'm now opening. But we might, if you all vote on a different app for us to communicate in as a group, I might just move the Balanced Blackwood Tribe group from Slack to somewhere else. And there's only a couple of people on it right now, the Slack chat, because we had sort of a clearing happen, and so there's just a few of us on there right now, which is why I want to grow it, because I want us all to be able to come together as a tribe and work together and communicate and network. I want to give people not only the things that I did have that I know that are important, but I want to give people the things I haven't had that I really could have used as support. So that's why I want to be a spiritual millionaire, so that I can create a spiritual entrepreneurs fund and other, charities, so that I'm not holding on to the millions that I make. The millions are passing through me on their way out to people that actually need it, rather than just sitting in banks and in the pockets of people hoarding it like we have now. So help me build this, because I can't do it without you. That there is an I in tribe. There's got to be a leader to every tribe, but it's not a tribe without everyone else, and we can all rise together. So come join me in the Balanced Blackwood Tribe, either just in general or on Slack if you'd like. I would love to have you. I still have 3 spots available if you'd like to work with me one-on-one. All the links to all the things are in the description. At the Slack chat, you can find the link for that on Patreon, which I've got a bunch of other free stuff on Patreon as well. And we are about to, in a couple of days, do the Patreon Magic in Real Life workshop live for all of my patrons. So if you'd like to join me for that, that's also available through a Patreon membership, which they're inexpensive. I've always wanted to make them affordable because I want to collect the tribe. And I know not everybody right now has the funds to be paying hundreds or thousands of dollars for a membership. And I really want to build this tribe. So to be a part of the general Balanced Blackwood Tribe, that is through the Awakening tier, which is $32 a month, or you can become a part of the Sanctuary of the Awakened part of the tribe, which is where, I share not just my, well, at least up until now, maybe I'll just make one. Maybe I'll just combine it all into one. Stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, go check out all the free stuff I have on Patreon. And yeah, as always, may the energies you serve you well. I would love to have you if you're ready to heal, grow, expand your consciousness, get to the roots of your problems and out of this symptom masking culture that just makes us more sick. Adopting a whole health system that has only natural solutions, that is personalized and customized to you. That is what I do. I have a system that I use to work with my clients that out of all the things that I've collected since I was like 9 years old, I have a bunch of different tools that I can use for any given person or client. And so what I do for each of my clients is not just a single system, but is taking the tools that I have and creating a system for you. So yeah, I would love to have you. I still got those 3 spots, so there's that. All right, guys. Let's keep making our way through. Like, subscribe, comment, all the things. And I'll see you in the next one.